All right, what exactly will be on tomorrow's quiz? You might ask, Corey. I thought you might ask.
Wait, quiz or test?
Test.
Oh, man,
all right.
I hope so.
Yeah, let me look.
I look at the test too and help you out.
All right, well, tell me. I'm going to use 6 possible questions. Tell me which 4 to take. No. Okay.
Go.
Oh no, he's teasing us.
All right. Let's see. There will be probably 3 review questions, and then. I'm so sick of that one. Okay.
No. Jack, what does that teach you?
If it weren't for that damn Hamilton guy, and who needs to know him? Okay. One first little hint, or I don't know if it's a hint, but just a reminder that we didn't get to the imperialism on the last primary source quiz. So imperialism was on, Friday's primary source quiz. We did get to imperialism on the last multiple choice test. So imperialism, unless it's a review question, is not going to be on tomorrow's multiple choice test. So you can lose imperialism. The questions start with World War I, and they're pretty detailed. There will be terms on there like the Lusitania, the Zimmerman Note.
What's the Zimmerman Note?
That was the thing that got us into the war.
Oh, the thing that we picked
Yes.
up?
There will be questions about the home front, without a doubt, in America, like who benefited, who didn't, out of women, African Americans, labor unions, farmers, etc., etc. There'll be background questions, which shouldn't technically be on a U.S. history test, but will be because they're sort of tied in, like for the first 3 years, who's winning on the Eastern Front, for the first 3 years, who's winning on the Western Front, like, that kind of thing. There'll be questions about like the thought police, like the Committee on Public Information, the Schenck ruling. So there's a lot more detail. You really only had to know 2 documents, which was 14 points and Treaty of Versailles for Friday. For tomorrow, you have to know all that other stuff. There's 48 questions instead of 6, so you can spread it out. Then there'll be, of course, still questions about the 14 points. Then a little more than nitty-gritty about like the Paris Peace Conference. Oh, what happens to the treaty after the president agrees to it? Before it becomes a treaty, it has to be Senate approval, or we call that ratified. The process of why that wasn't ratified, the U.S. rejecting it. So like the first 2 sides of questions are World War I and review questions. So I would definitely study that. Yes, Anthony.
Which treaty was
Why was the League of Nations treaty rejected by the Senate? Oh, there's a lot of reasons. Go ahead.
entangling alliances.
No entangling alliances. Washington said not to do it.
The public didn't really want to go into the...
Yeah, but the public thought the whole thing was a mistake and wanted to stay out. They didn't see the value of a League of Nations. Wilson himself was kind of a pain in the butt on a personal level, so everybody liked to stick it to him. Wilson had a stroke, so he couldn't campaign for it. There's a lot of reasons. All right, the next set of questions would be on the 20s. Ooh, there could be a bunch of those bad boys too. Ooh. Okay, so there could be 2 more sides of questions on the 20s. So a couple would be on the roaring part, the technology, the Harlem Renaissance, etc. And then, as has been the case, we'll probably do more about the anti-20s than the 20s themselves. The attack on civil liberties, the Red Scare, the attack on civil liberties, the Red Scare. And then there could be some topics I told you to completely ignore for last Friday, like the election of 1928, not the election of 1932 that got FDR in, but the election of 1928.
Is that with Hoover and
Al Smith? Yeah. And then questions about the economy. One class had those types of questions, but how was the economy? What were some of the negatives of the economy, even though it looked good, et cetera, et cetera? If there's a farmer's question, what's always the answers for the farmer? The answer for the farmer's question, AP or Regents? Overproduction, which causes deflation or prices to go down. Then sort of underlying causes. Ooh, that's a hard one. Hoover's presidency, in which he's responsible for a depression that the fall of his predecessor was similar to the presidency of.
G.W. Bush.
Okay, but that's not
The
in
guy
the
before
past.
Abraham Lincoln.
That's not before
Coolidge.
Hoover.
Deep Coolidge.
No, the crazy guy. The
All right, Hoover is to Coolidge as Van Buren is to
Armin.
I said that.
Okay. Then it could end with like the bonus army shooting and so on. And then there could be really specific questions. What was the highest unemployment rate when it got to its worst?
20%.
What year did it get to its worst?
1928.
The crash is in 1929.
1931. Wait, what was it?
Wait,
Wait,
what
what
are
was
you
the
laughing at?
highest unemployment rate?
1931.
Well, you might have to think with logic here. When does FDR actually take the inaugural and start his New Deal?
January 1932.
So that might be when it was at its worst. Remember the 20th Amendment, he didn't take over till March. Except he didn't take over till March.
March.
25%.
So he won the 32 election, but went in power and went in charge in 33.
Correct.
So no.
He's elected in 32, but he doesn't take over till 33.
Wait, Mr.
What? Probably the year FDR took over, the last year of Hoover. Then obviously there'll be lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of New Deal programs.
FDIC.
Well, like stuff that wasn't on there before, like Keynesian theory, like
Yeah, we got this.
Keynesian economic theory.
How do you spell that?
Keynesian.
Howard Schubert. The bus is loaded and ready to go.
What?
Again, Mr. Kramer and Miss Schubert. The bus is loaded
It's
and
the
ready
opposite
to
of
go.
laissez-faire. It's the government creates jobs and puts people on the payroll. The bus is loaded, and so are they, I hope, for their sake. Okay.
What is?
Yes.
What was the year? It creates jobs and what?
You know, like the government made, like the CCC, the TVA.
So
Those
the
are
government
all
takes
like
control.
examples of how to, like, his whole idea is the government has to step in, go into debt, and put people on the payroll.
So get rid of laissez-faire.
It's totally the opposite of laissez-faire. Yes.
Wait, what is the Keynesian?
That's what the Keynesian theory is, what I just said. Yes. Okay. Opposition to the New Deal, the Roosevelt recession, when he pulls back on the New Deal too early, the court packing plan.
Can you go over court cut?
Yes, he wants to pack the court.
With what?
More justices that will rule favorably to his ideas. However, it's sort of a huge, like, power grab.
So it's like corrupt.
Late.
Yeah, well, it's not corrupt in the idea of giving him money in his pocket, but it's corrupt in making him like King Franklin, some would say.
King Franklin.
And there's all sorts of comparisons.
You guys are all
Comparing the New Deal to New Nationalism, the New Deal to New Freedom, the New Deal to FDR to Lincoln, FDR to Jackson, FDR to TR, FDR to Wilson. Like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, like it's a test on FDR, or at least FDR1.
Are you gonna have like speaker questions or no?
No. Oh, shit. Yep, there it is. All right. But don't worry, there's only 11. Not a problem. Okay. No, there's not 11, but there's plenty.
Hate speaker.
But, again,
Say stupid words. Why did you That's every answer.
the problem is that speaker F. That doesn't help anything.
I get it. Speaker F because you're.
One person who shall remain anonymous complained that it having those speaker questions and having one of them being stupid Lorge and having it A through E was not prepping you for the AP test because you could immediately narrow it down to 4, which makes it too easy, blah, blah, blah. So now it is Speaker F. That person will remain anonymous to protect his or her health. Okay. So there are 5 legit speakers. But what you have to do is look.
Is there 4
There's
legit
going to be like a conservative, a moderate, a pro-FDR person, like a socialist or like a Huey Long sympathizer. And you have to go through and like sort of, tell the perspective first, and then you can answer it. And it's not going to be that hard. Which would have agreed with Huey Long, which would have agreed with a conservative Republican.
Huey Long was socialist, right?
Yeah, but what kind of crazy guy?
Oh, government takes control of everything.
Yes, and soaks the rich, gives to the poor, that kind of thing. Then there could be a question on Lend-Lease.
That's the guns and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And they didn't get, that was for nothing in return, right?
Yes. And that
We learned that.
could be it. There could be a Pearl Harbor question or a
He didn't even learn about Pearl Harbor.
Neutrality Act question.
What's the neutrality?
The Neutrality Act's like the cash and carry law. And I guess given this year is my first big year in the union, I could also ask a Wagner Act question from my archive of extra questions. That would be the one I would put in, given I've taken sort of a huge role in the union. I might make all of you learn the Wagner Act.
Alright, so
One that allowed you to form your
Uniform unions, collectively bargain, etc.
What's the already election?
32.
1928.
No,
You
no.
always have to know 32, but 1928.
28 was Hoover versus
Eve,
Al Smith.
just the catch and carry law. You couldn't buy weapons if you're a foreign country unless you pay cash and carry it out, which is kind of a bogus.
It's like Costco.
Right, but Costco is great for like Costco stuff, but not for tanks. So the cash and carry laws were really a way of keeping America from getting involved whatsoever.
My dad owns a cash and carry business.
It was like a huge neutrality victory for the isolationists. The cash and carry law.
Do you find this test easier than usual?
When I took it, I did well. Yes. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
Can you just say the definition again?
Yes, that you couldn't buy weapons from America unless you showed up to the factory where America made it, paid the factory owner in cash, like for $1 million tank, you're supposed to pay cash, and carried the weapons out yourself.
That was a good 13 minutes.
Thank you.
How do you?
Any final questions? All right, I have a meeting.